Hello and welcome. Today I'm so delighted to introduce my guest, Tracy O'Meara Smith. Welcome to you, Tracy.
Hello, Beverly.
Good to have you on the show today.
Thanks.
So to kick us off, let's find out a little bit more about you and what it is that you do in your work.
I'm a holistic therapist, and I help women feel lighter. I help them to lift the burdens, pains, crises, old thought patterns, anything that seems to make them feel heavy in life. So I treat a lot of people with remedial health issues and chronic pain and crisis and sometimes grief. So I always hear, and I do that through a blend of natural therapy and holistic tools, flower essence therapy, Bowen therapy, and integrated therapeutic alignment, which is an form of energy medicine. So we build from one stage to another. So if someone gets stuck in a certain pattern, pain pattern in particular, that's when I'll bring the energy work in. A lot of people suffer overwhelm and burnout, and that's when I'll access the body work and the flower essences, because it really helps people to rejuvenate and really reconnect with themselves. And 9 times out of 10, when people can reconnect, they find the answers that they seek, and that it's not that they don't need external help, they just know intuitively what they need to do.
That's so true, that, isn't it? When we reconnect, that body's infinite wisdom is what I love to say. And so, Tracy, have you got a well-being journey that we can kind of connect with today?
I think with my well-being journey, it's been incredibly deep and life-affirming. And I think the deeper you go, the more you simplify life, and the more you access your humility and your sense of humbleness. The simple things become the most profound. And I think as you go through the layers of life, you just want simplicity. You can sit back with a cup of tea on your back deck or down the beach and appreciate a sunset more. So I think for me, it's been really shaking off the layers and getting to the core, to my true nature. And I think we all get stuck in our head, and we all have our stuff, and it all seems to come up and usually in the most inappropriate times, but that's usually the most perfect time. So, it's learning to trust that process, I think. And having faith and trust for me has been massive, and trusting the process, because at times the process itself can be incredibly messy, and as organic as it is, we always seem to pop out the other side, not necessarily shiny and new, but definitely wiser.
Definitely wiser, yes. For anyone who's gone on a well-being journey, they know that's true. So you mentioned there integrated therapeutic alignment. So what is this?
Integrated therapeutic alignment is a systematic base of energy medicine that looks at the patterns in our behaviours, in our thoughts and in our feelings, and we access and can change the way the system is set up through certain sequences and alignments. So what we're doing, we're actually building and purging the energy system. And the energy system is made up more than just the 7 chakras. We look at the vortice channels, meridians, and how they're all interlinked. Everything's interlinked. So you go from chakra to meridian to organ and cell, and a lot of our emotional stored trauma is stored cellularly or within the spinal reflexes of the body. So ITA, Integrated Therapeutic Alignment, helps to create sequences that can purge what is no longer serving and build and fuel what we actually want to create. So we're also activating the magnetic and the electric force within the system, and from that we can attract who and what we need at any given time. So you're actually utilising and co-creating with the energy force and consciousness that surrounds us. And it's absolutely beautiful to receive, and even more so to facilitate. And the more I dive deeper into this, having received treatments for almost a decade, it's absolutely changed my life and those around me.
And so what are some of the benefits then of RTA for health and well-being generally?
I think, if anything, it helps you to activate your discernment. So you learn to trust your intuition, and you learn where and what you actually engage in. And I think there's a tendency, especially in business, that we want to do all the things, and we want to learn. We want to keep learning. We've got to do this course, that course, talk to that person. And sometimes we can get sort of distracted and get out of our own lane. So I think ITA is fantastic for keeping you discerning on what, even on social media, what you actually engage in and what you actually fuel. And you come to understanding with your intuition, a lot of what we fuel isn't necessary. So you learn to really be your true self in your body. You feel safe in your body, and you can live through your, not necessarily your own, through the heart space of who you are. Very much the I am. And it's fantastic thing to have to, or in my experience, to witness and to experience.
Yeah, that's important too, to know that, because this is the thing, is there's just so much out there, isn't there? You can get easily confused and taken off track. And so I'm interested to hear then, in practical terms, what has this meant for some of your clients, and what outcomes have they realized?
I think one particular client was feeling quite financially blocked. And in part of a treatment, I create what's known as a root cause chart. And with the root cause chart, we come with an intention. We start with an intention, and then I scan the body, the meridians, the vortices, chakras, organs, endocrines, and the heart channels, and we find out where those blocks are stored within the body. And once we know that, I create treatments from that root cause chart, as well as a lot of self-care exercises, energy exercises and affirmations, in order to help align with that intention. And so this particular lady had quite significant financial blocks, but she also had she was always 1 foot in and 1 foot out of a business and couldn't really truly commit. So we had a look at that, and through the process, what we discovered, the core root issue was around feeling responsible for her father's well-being as a child, and she had to control her environment and everybody else's well-being. And once she realised it wasn't her responsibility, and there was an emotional release around that as the body reintegrated and consciousness recognised what she'd been holding. She recognised that she was holding the responsibility for a business that wasn't necessarily working, but she didn't quite know how to fix it. So it came to her that she basically needed to get a job. So in order to utilise and access and feel a little bit freer in a business. So the financial loans were covered through 2 days a week of finding a job, which landed in a lap a week later after she recognised that. And then her finances are covered. And now she's pivoting and changing the way her business is running, because she's realised she has a dream, but it doesn't necessarily happen right away. We can change and evolve, and our business can be as organic as we are if we're willing to let go of the reins and take responsibility and be willing to and brave enough to face parts of ourselves that may be holding us back. And that's a big thing. But being brave to look at ourselves really honestly can be incredibly confronting. And I think if you're willing to do that, then accessing self-compassion and self-understanding is just as important, because when the old stuff lifts, it's harder if we judge that. If we can accept and embrace that, that deepens our sense of humility. And I truly believe that humility holds us stronger than our ego.
Yeah. And I think in there, what I understand is, you know, it's easy to look back and be in judgment, but at the time, you did the best usually with what you had or what you knew how.
Yeah.
So, you know, then it is easier to come to a bit of compassion and forgiveness.
Yeah.
And so how have you used RTA for health and well-being situations?
In health situations, in terms of health, I have a client who has lupus, and she gets horrendous chronic pain and chronic pain attacks. So we did a root cause chart and found out where these sorts of things were stored in her body, particularly spinal reflexes. We created the affirmations, and then we started to track her hormones and her cycle. And what became quite prevalent was just before her period, her pain patterns would increase, and as her bleed tapered off, the pains would decrease. So what we did was we created a system, or a health, well, it's like a well-being system, so she could basically diarise her work and her life around the times that she was having her period. And that's when we started to activate the affirmations at the strongest, when she was feeling the lowest. Because for some reason, humans tend to put more on their plate or seem to be less compassionate when we're at our most vulnerable. And if we're more stressed, we seem to whack more on our plate. So we really stepped back from that and could really see how much she was putting on her plate when she was at her most vulnerable. So we were able to see that pattern, take that away, and now at those times, even though the pain has lessened, managing that has become a lot easier for her. And the affirmations help her bring herself to a sense of calm, and support her when she needs it the most. And that, to me, is such a win, because we can break the pattern. Well, we did break the pattern, and so those times aren't as harsh for her as they normally would have been.
Yeah, and then I guess it's just a process of working with that and allowing the body to heal in that process.
Yes, and because lupus is an autoimmune, strengthening the adrenals and the endocrines for her, and we use the meridian points. So we use acupressure seats on certain meridian points that are targeted to her body, and they're placed on these points 45 minutes a day, and the body can realign and reinvigorate itself naturally, just through stimulating those acupressure points. It's just
amazing.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, that's wonderful. And when I read up a little bit about RTA, it said that you could also use this as a self-development tool. So I presume that there is one or two tools that maybe you could even just share one on how listeners could apply something from that whole big, beautiful range of things that you've shared with us. Is there any one little tool that somebody could listen to today and apply to themselves?
There's so many. I think the one that comes to mind is the grounding technique. So basically, I will share this with you, Bev. We can put it in the show notes because there's a visual that goes with this. Great. So you're slightly bending the knees and tilting the chin forward as you would standing straight. And you're actually visualizing there's a chakras or energy centers known as the soul star and the earth star. So we want to align our inner channel with the soul star and the earth star. And this channel runs straight through the center line of our body, through the crown, the ajna, and all the chakra centers of the body. And we actually stand there with our knees slightly bent for 5 or 10 minutes. And what happens then is the body itself it finds its own center of balance, and it takes pressure off the hips and the knees, and you become like a conduit, a natural conduit. And just by being grounded in our bodies and in our reality, that in itself brings us to a space of awareness and awakens our intuitive channels naturally, just by being aware and grounded. If we're scattered in our heads, there's a tendency to be reactive rather than responsive. So the grounding technique really helps us to awaken our senses in that way.
Oh, that's great. So I just see that the whole aspect, so you as a holistic practitioner, you're drawing on things that people need at that moment in time. So like if somebody, what's a typical profile of somebody that you work with?
Typical profile, usually sometimes they're extremely busy. They have a lot of responsibility. They feel like there's a weight on their shoulder. There's usually a remedial health issue ticking along in the background, or they have a little bit of a few problems that they need to deal with, put the fires out, shall we say. So usually the first thing, we ascertain what they would like to target first. And 9 times out of 10, they think they need that. And then it evolves into something completely differently. So what I absolutely love about what I do is because I've got so many tools to access, the Bowen itself really helps the body-mind connection. So even the nature of the tool itself helps the body and mind connect. So, and you cannot not feel it because we're awakening the connective tissue within the body. This is where all the cellular process happens. The body itself goes, oh, thank you, because it's getting the right information to relax. And it's getting the right information not only to relax, but also to let go. Sometimes if people are in a strong pain pattern, they resist letting go because the body naturally will hold itself quite rigid around the painful places. So that's when I access the flower essences and I'll place them in parts of the body so the mind says, oh, yeah, I'm in pain, but I can let you in, I can let go. So through that, they are given the Bowen and I'll also, after that session, in order to access the central nervous system and to help integrate the Bowen, then I will pulse flower essences on the meridian points within the ear. And what that does is it awakens and the meridian channels. And the meridian channels, there's 12 of them that run through the entire system. But I'll usually access the Shenman point, the top point of the ear, and use certain flowers at that point, and people go into a really deep restorative rest. And when people can access that deep restorative place, that's when the body heals, and that's when the mind can calm. And when we're rested in that way, then we can enter into life in a responsive rather than a reactive.
Beautiful, love it.
If pain patterns persist, that's when we access the ITA.
Okay. And so what are your tips for living fabulously?
Oh, gosh, there's so many. I think trust yourself, and I think more's to the point, nourish your soul. So do things. There's this movement in self-care, get sleep, and which is so necessary. Sleep is a physical nourishment, but if we can access and pair that with soul nourishment, things that really sing to your soul, whether it's watercolor painting, going to the beach, having a cup of chai in the morning, anything that really hits you on a soul level is a wonderful way to be living fabulously.
Beautiful. Yes, I agree. It's not just all the physical aspects, because we are integrated body, mind and soul. So it's important to nurture every aspect of ourselves. So you can find Tracy O'Meara Smith at her website. It's silverdale.com.au, and also Silverdale Natural Therapy on Facebook. They'll be in the show notes, so don't worry about the spelling. And Tracy, thanks so much for being with me today. I think
thank you so much.
Just lovely to open people up to a new modality and a new way of accessing healing. And I love that the two examples were completely different, because obviously the breadth of the integrated therapeutic alignment is there, but so is the depth, that you can talk about financial blocks in one aspect, and then you're talking about an autoimmune illness. So amazing that the tool is, well, the practice, let's say, or the therapy allows for that. And I think that's what is amazing. And I'm glad that we had this opportunity to have this conversation. So thanks for being with me today.
Thank you, Bev. Fabulous. Lovely to always talk about this forever and ever.